Well, hey, welcome back to the Amanda Kaufman Show. And I'm so excited to introduce you to my friend Kevin Harris. We met at a local event and actually a couple of times in the DFW area, and he was so magnetic. I had to talk to him, which is so interesting because Kevin is a recovering introvert. He used to be really insecure. He'd hang out at the back of the room, really kind of struggled as an entrepreneur as a consequence. But clearly, he's figured some things out. One challenge from a mentor changed everything. He ended up launching a lifelong mission to help others break free from average. I was teasing him a little bit as we were coming on to the show because his name showed up as the Kevin Harris. Welcome to the show.
Well, I am super excited about being here, Amanda. This is going to be fun.
It's going to be so fun. So, okay, so you do coaching, you help people break free from average. I'm going to call it affectionately the curse of average. Like, what happens when you do pull back like that? What do you notice in business owners when they do that?
Yeah, I know that most of the time when I'm coaching, whether it's real estate agents or whether it's marketers or business owners, one of their biggest thoughts when they start their business is they have to be really good at the thing, and whatever that thing is. It could be inspections, it can be making donuts, whatever, and that's true. We all have to kind of be good at the craft, but for especially in the service business, I'd say probably in most businesses, but definitely the service industry, one of the biggest things that keeps them from breaking out is that they're looked at from the client's perspective as a commodity, like just another donut shop. It's just another realtor. It's just another title company. And one of the things that I noticed early on was that they weren't actually like putting in their own personality, their own piece of who they are that makes them different, the differentiation. I
Mm.
use an example a lot, like when if you went to the store and you saw 2 gallons of milk, if you drink milk, and one is $2 and one is $7, which one would you buy? Obviously, you'd buy the $2 milk. But what if that $7 one had Borden on it? Well, you would probably still buy the $2 milk. And what if you had like a carnival around promoting that that $7 milk? You'd still wind up being the $2 because it's just a commodity, right? Milk's just a commodity for the most part. Now, take the oat milk that was squeezed from the oats of a mountain and gently caressed into a quart that's $13.99. If you want that oat milk, that's the differentiation. That's the $13.99 one, and people buy it all day long because it's a different thought around what we do and who we are. And I believe that we're all put on this planet with a uniqueness. We were born different than anybody else. There'll never be anybody else like us. And understanding and tapping into that uniqueness is really where the superpower is what I say.
I love this. I love this. So, okay, I've experienced you in person, so I know that you're magnetic. Like you are one of those people that in a live event, and I've seen it from afar too, because like I'm a bit of a people watcher. Like y'all, when Kevin's there, he's not, I would say, overly gregarious or particularly loud. Like you don't come off as in any way obnoxious. But what I do notice is that people seem to want to come and speak to you, want to come and introduce themselves to you. So here's my curiosity. How'd you learn to do that? Or like was it more about tapping into some other part of you? Because you obviously had figured out the insecure stay at the back of the room part. You were good at that. And then something changed. So what happened?
Yeah, it's the first chapter of my book, and because it's this whole conversation around. I was a very insecure young man, middle child, grew up in a very blue collar background. My mom and dad were married 60 years, and just a very typical kind of blue collar conversation. And I was always taught to just put your head down, go to work, don't make a scene, don't stand out. You just want to just move with the flow. And I always say there's no judgment in this. There's nothing wrong with that. But there was always this internal piece of me that wanted to break out. Like I wanted to be a singer, but I couldn't sing. I wanted to play guitar, but I never didn't have the patience to. And so there was always this pull. And it wasn't until I was in my 20s and I was lucky enough to take a position in a company, moved up pretty quick, and got into a position where I had to start presenting in front of a room full of people that really thought they should have my job. I was 26 years old, and that most of the room was like in their 40s and 50s. And so so I had a mentor, and I always say it's very, very important that you find those people that are put in your path, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a coach, and then lean in and be coachable, right? And I just happened to find somebody, and they forced me, literally with the threatening of my job, that I had to get in front of these people. And my gosh, sweat, dry mouth, drinking 2 gallons of water up there. Terrible. It was terrible. But the aha was afterwards was I didn't die. And then literally that month, if you remember a book that was when it first came out, called Awaken the Giant Within with Tony Robbins,
Yeah.
I had never been exposed to a mindset, and just it wasn't in my world. And it opened up just this aha of I can be who I'm supposed to be. I can actually start to lean into it. And throughout the next and going on 40 years, I have learned that, one, if you lean into what your purpose is, and a lot of people say, well, I don't know what my purpose is. Well, that's part of what, I talk about. But if you lean in and discover what that purpose is, and then regardless of what people think, regardless of what the industry's saying, what you will find out is not only will you be happy, but you'll be joyful and you will be fulfilled, because that's what you're on this planet to do. And it took me a long time to figure that out. And it was I always say the destination is not the destination. It's really the journey, and the journey is not a straight line. Right. And I've had a lot of great people in my life that have spoke into me and encouraged me when I stood out in front of the room. And I always say this is kind of the landing of the plane of the story. My next time that I got up in front of them, I had to do it once a month, so I didn't have a choice. And so the next time I was a little less embarrassed. I was a little less, scared. And I told a joke that was like literally just an offhand joke, and I heard laughter. And when I heard that laughter, it was like an explosion in my head of, ooh, I like that. I like it when people smile. I like it when they lean in. And that was when I was 26 years old, and I'm not 26 now. And I have then taken that piece and just tried to hone that and try to get better at it, try to get better at conversation, gone to the seminars, done the things, read the books, listened from the back of the room, and tried to figure out why that speaker was able to set the room on fire. And all of that just to say, that's not the journey of everybody. But once I figured out that was my journey, is when it was like, oh, this is going to be a great life. So I just encourage people to, if they haven't ever went down that path, I call it the hard work. If they haven't started that hard work, best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that reminder. And, as you were speaking about this, I was reflecting on my own journey. I relate. I really do relate. I call that former version of me Wallflower Mandy. I would go to the events and I did not look forward to a networking event, and when I was there, I would just hang out on the edges and try and leave as soon as possible. But, kind of like you, I found myself in a career path that there was a level of have to, like, girl, you have to go, right? You have to participate. You have to go. And, it made such a difference in my life. And listener, if you're hearing this, I think like one thing is, look for the mentor yourself, but also consider like, how could you be a mentor to someone else and encourage them forward and, peel them off the wallpaper kind of thing. And one of the things that I realized is like, as I became an entrepreneur, it is really hard to build a business in secret. Like, very difficult. Do not recommend.
I haven't figured that
One
out
star.
yet.
And so I had to learn to get onto camera, and I had to learn how to do this. And, I was in the have to place, but I didn't have the same structure that I had in my 20s when I was doing consulting. And here's what I'll share with anybody who's struggling with maybe getting on camera or doing the interview or writing the book or taking the leap. Embarrassment has a half-life, right? So that's exactly what you experienced, right? Is you did
Yep.
the thing, and then the next time you did it, well, first of all, you found out you didn't die. So I think that's like embarrassment 10 out of 10. You think you're gonna die for sure, 10 out of 10. You do it, you find out that's not quite true, right? And then it's just like half again, half again, half again, half again, half again, you know. So here's a question. Because I noticed that you are definitely not obnoxious, as I pointed out before. You
Well, I
seem to
appreciate that.
have. I'm serious. Like we've all met that person who's
Yeah.
like, they're missing an awareness, I think. Like they're missing something that you clearly have around connection. So can you speak to us a little bit about that balance point of owning your identity for sure, owning what makes you special, owning your purpose, and allowing for the oxygen to remain in the room? So how does somebody know that they're not going too far?
I think it comes down to their motivation. What are they trying to accomplish? And Gary Vee in his first book, and I'm a Gary Vee fan. I think he's one of the best, not just marketers, but I mean, to speak to how you can get past some of these roadblocks that we all face. But the book is titled Jab, 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 Right Hook, which is just give, 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 and then you've earned the right to ask. And so I think that if our life, our businesses, our planet would be much better served if people would come from a place of service and understanding that if you serve enough, you'll get what you want. And so one of my mottos that I have, one of my core beliefs is that I want to bring value to every conversation I have. So if I'm speaking to someone and I'm speaking to them about sports, I used to be a head football coach. You can see the trophy in the background. And I wanted to make sure that when those boys left, and this was in private school setting, which it wasn't a typical private school. It's more like almost like a home kind of setting. A lot of baggage that came with a lot of these kids. I wanted them to be better than when they came. When I go into a room, I want to try to my goal is to leave it better than I walked in there with. So if it's meeting someone, I will talk to anybody about anything, and if I have anything that I can give to help solve whatever problem they're trying to do, I will give it. I'll probably give you a perfect example. Today, I'm in a coaching session right now where I'm one of the head coaches that coaches in front of the room for 3 days. And there was this person that gave their personal story. It was a very, very tragic story of how they built their business and how they kind of persevered, still kind of going through it. And it's a very emotional, and I don't want to get into it, but it was people in the room crying, all the things.
Yeah.
And she felt compelled to tell that to the group. And I'm kind of it's in a business that serves real estate agents. So they call me the realtor whisperer because I help them relate to realtors. And so I'm that coach in that room. And so they looked to me and they said, Kevin, what do you think about this? And I said, God bless you. I can't imagine what you've gone through. I'm not going to try to tell you what to do. But if you're asking how a realtor would perceive it, then this is what I think you're seeing what you see because you're going through it. But a realtor is not going to see that. And so I just want to give that to you so that you can go on that journey. I've never met her before. I don't know if she's going to be part of the group again, but it's just, I don't do that like intentionally. It's just to me, one of the things that if you really want to help people, and I tell real estate agents and people who serve, I'm like, look, you gotta actually want to help people if you really want to be good at this, because you could be
That's
the
so
person you were talking
interesting.
about.
This is so interesting because you said almost in the same breath. It's like I'm not doing it intentionally. And yet there's just so clearly intention there. Like there is a cultivation, I guess, that it's gotten to this point where it's very automatic. Like, is that fair?
Yeah, I would say I haven't always been that way. That'd probably be a good observation. Good job, Amanda.
No, thank you.
I would say when I was in my 20s, it was more about me. It was more about the money. It was more about the what I could get. And I mean, my mom raised me right, right. I always cared about people, but we always put ourselves in front of that a lot of times. But as I've gotten older, I've got 3 grown kids, 2 grandkids. I've been married almost 40 years. Life will teach you one way or another what's important, and you can either learn it through others, or you can learn it through your experience. Choose wisely, right?
So
The
good. So
reality is
good.
is I've just in my late 30s, I decided to quit choosing experience as much and started choosing what is that person who's where I want to be, what does he say about this topic, and then just tried to mimic that and model it. And like you said, I'm a football coach by trade. You do the reps, eventually become second nature.
That's it. It's like a muscle memory. And the I love what you said about leaving people better off because of the interaction. And I actually really think of that as a business strategy. Like that is good business to be very generous, to be considerate of other people and of their needs and goals and have faith that, I think where people go wrong is they get very transactional, and it's very quid pro quo. And it's like, well, I scratched your back. Now you have to specifically scratch mine in exact proportion to how much I scratched your back. And it's like this crazy scorekeeping that I think makes people it just eats at people eventually. One of my favorite quotes is from the Bible. I'm not religious, but I love this quote. And it's like the root of all evil is the love of money. It's not that it's bad to prosper, and it's not bad to succeed. It's the love of that with nothing else. Right. And it's that
Correct.
transactional thinking. And I've found that to be true in my life as well, is that, when you walk not from a place of wanting to just be like, I do see sometimes people showing up more in kind of a martyrly place where it's like, I'm fixing everybody, and I'm going to suffer, and I'm not going to succeed, and I'm not going to differentiate, and I'm not going to ask for the sale, and I'm not going to do all of these things so that you believe that I'm such a good person. I'm like, you can take that strategy a little far,
Yeah.
but just overall kind of having that trust and that faith that when you're showing up well in service, it will work out. And it is a competitive advantage, I would say, in this day and age to do so.
Yeah, I tell the people that I coach all the time that if you're just compassionate about people, that doesn't mean you get taken advantage of. It doesn't mean you put things, you can give something without it being taken from you. So,
That part, compassion plus boundaries, right?
yeah, yeah. And but if you come from that place, what's the worst thing that can happen? Right? You get to put your head on the pillow at night and say, I at least did what I should have done. Maybe I didn't get the deal. Maybe I didn't get whatever it is. However, did you do what you felt you should do? And if that feeling comes from a place of service and a place of truly wanting to help people, you're good. I always say this, go do that for a year, come back and tell me it didn't work. Prove me wrong. Right? I don't think I've never had anybody come back and tell me that it was wrong. It changes not just your business, but it changes your mindset on people. It changes your mindset on the outlook of your life. As I've gotten more gray in my hair, it's become more relevant that there is only a finite time that we have on this planet, and you can
Yeah.
choose to look at the world and all the problems and all the things and all that stuff, and that is a truth. Okay, I'm not saying that's not there, but you can choose to focus on that, or you can choose to focus on the positive path that you're going to leave when you're not here. And it's your choice. And again, I don't judge it because it's not my life. But I will say the best thing anybody can do for yourself, and I've mentioned this in the book, is to find your tribe. And one of the things that I heard early on in my entrepreneurial journey is, everybody deserves to be at the table, but maybe not yours. So I want everybody to succeed. I want everybody to have their table, but you don't necessarily get to be at mine. And so I get to choose who's at my table. And I just choose to have people in my life that are service oriented. Or, like I said, you can be great at what you do, but if you don't care about people, you're not in my world. And I don't care who you look like. I don't care what you do. I don't care who you love. I don't care about any of that. I care about your heart. And the people that I try to surround myself with are people that have a heart for people. And then we go out and we build businesses doing that.
You are proving a hypothesis that I've been sitting with. So I've been thinking a lot lately. I do business consulting and coaching with service-based businesses who sell through consult. And lately, AI is like this wild opportunity and disruptor right now. It's catching everybody. And I've been really like sitting with and reflecting on the human element in business as we move forward. I think there's a lot of people talking about, AI bad, you know, turning it into a morality thing, which I personally think is pretty futile. Like I think that's a little like just Pandora's
Internet
box where
bad.
you're trying to stuff it back into the box. It's not going to happen. But I do think it's worth considering the role of humanity in business as we move forward. And the thing that you're really proving without even knowing that I had been doodling about this is the thing AI can never do, technology just cannot do, is care. It can't care. And a human can. And one of the things that in thinking about caring, because I love relationships, I love people, and I've been playing with operationalizing caring, which is such a funny way to think about it, I know, but I think that people are sort of struggling with how to demonstrate the behavior of caring in an authentic way. And so one of our things that we've come up with in my home actually is if you really care, you need to care about how you care,
Love that. I may
right?
take that from you, Amanda.
Do it. Yeah, for sure. Quote or
That's awesome. I'll
no.
give you
Like
credit. I
anything
always
you'll
say I'll give you
respect.
credit the first 3 times.
Perfect. Yeah, that's enough. But yeah, you do
That's
have to
awesome. I
care
like that.
about how you care. And, when it comes to being competitive and to elevating out of the space of commodity and being, thought of, sought after as a provider of service or product, like how does a person go about finding their it factor?
That's a great question, and it's a question for the ages. I think there's a lot of different ways that you can do it. I think our world is built, especially in the generation that we're in, we're built on distraction. And I think the very first thing that we need to do is get with ourselves and just ourselves, no music, and just sit and whether it's listening to a higher power, whether it's listening to vibration. I have my belief around that. I mean, quantum mechanics is proving as we get, more smart and AI involved, that there is energy that is around us and that we can change that stuff. And so, and I believe that there was someone who built that framework. But even if you don't, the reality is we know when someone is magnetic on stage. We know when someone truly has empathy. But how do we know that? We know that because of the, aura, the energy, what they come off of their body. And most people, if you're tuned to it, can know when it's not. It's just words. It's just a sales pitch. And I think one of the best things that people can start doing, Socrates said it, thousands of years ago, know thyself. Is to start understanding and start doing what I call the hard work on knowing yourself, your strengths and your weaknesses. If you know the DISC profile, I teach a class to business owners on the DISC, which is just a personality profile. But I'm a DI, no S, no C. So I'm not like all systems are like, I love systems, but don't ask me to build them. I'm a driver and I'm an influencer. I like to be in front of people. I like to talk, which is great. People are like, oh, I wish I was more like you. And I'm like, be careful. There's two sides to every coin, because when you want to be in front of people, you also want to be liked by people. So you're very easily hurt when they don't respond the way you want them to respond, And so, but knowing those things then allows you to be starting to become comfortable with the fact that you are unique. No one's ever been made like you. No one ever will be made like you. I've said that before. And you are here at this time for a reason. And once you start really believing that, and the only way you can believe it is to sit with yourself and actually get into that state. And
Mm,
when you start doing the reps on that, you start feeling comfortable in your own skin. I mean, we know right now we could go on TikTok, we can go on Instagram, we can go on any of these channels, and we can see people who were like, "Oh my gosh, how does this person get in front of camera? I can't believe. Do you see what that person just did?" And they do it every day because they've become comfortable with who they are, not because of what they
right.
look like, not be, and that's the magic. The magic is being okay with being okay. And then as a business owner, how do you take that and make that your differentiation? Make that, like I work with someone right now that they're not a high extrovert. They're more of an introvert, but they're also an engineer minded person. So they're very focused on this task. And so we're leaning into, well, how can we market that? How can we market your expertise? Because that's going to differentiate him, because that's what he likes to do. And so I think that most people go through life. There's a saying that I heard that most people go through the same 6 months for 70 years. So they just kind of keep doing the same thing. And this is what I've heard. I don't know if the stats are right, and because we're on a channel, so don't hit me with the stats. But 95% of the people, they just live their life, and whatever comes at them, that's what happens. And then there's 5% that become business owners and entrepreneurs. And we all
Man, I
chose. I
believe
always say
that. I
us.
believe that
Yeah, I'm
stat,
like,
right?
us
Like,
crazy
y'all can
cats
run
decided
AI
to do
and tell
something
us we're
different.
wrong in the comments for sure, but my intuition says that feels about right.
Yeah, and we have decided to take a different path. So we've got to make some different decisions about who we are and what the work we need to do to be that person, because we can't be that person that we used to be, because person took a job and took a check. And again, nothing wrong with that, but we decided to do this. So we got to do the work.
It's reminding me of the t-shirt that you could buy a few years ago that said, "Welcome to the dark side. We have cookies."
It's funny.
Kevin, how can people keep up with you?
Yeah, I'm on TikTok, but I don't really get onto it that much. Instagram, YouTube, the Kevin Harris one or the Kevin Harris. It's my channel. And just to give you a heads up, the reason why it's the Kevin Harris has nothing to do with ego. It has to do with my books called The Hero Edge, which is an acronym for THE. And the fact that when
Nice.
yeah, and to say that when you say I want to go to a Mexican food restaurant or I want to go to the Mexican food restaurant, what's the difference in those two statements? It's that one is unique and one is a commodity. And so everybody should have the in front of their name, at least in their head, because no one is ever going to be like you. And so you might as well lean into it and live life the way you're supposed to live it. But find me on YouTube, find me on Instagram, find me on Facebook, and or the Kevin Harris.
I love it. We'll make sure to have those links around this video or where you're listening. Kevin, I really loved having you on the show, and I can't wait to see you
It's been my
again
blessing and pleasure.
in person. And dear listener, before you go, just one quick message from our sponsor. Welcome to one of my first ads for Claire Venue. Yep. It took me about 3.5 years to do my very first ad in my first company. So I figure if I waited 3 months for this company, I'm already doing a lot faster. But yeah, so why do an ad? Well, because we show you how to use systems, and all an ad, my friend, is a system for getting the word out. And if you're really curious about how you could use systems more effectively in your business, then we should get to know each other better. And you should come check out the Inner Circle, where we marry the coaching and the wisdom and the motivational stuff with like actual brass tacks of systems to help you acquire clients and help you to not go crazy when you are a team of one or a few. All right, my friend, we'll get back to the episode. We'll see you soon. And with that, we are looking forward to seeing you again, my friend. And don't forget to hit subscribe. A lot of people are always looking at the Instagram and waiting for it to come out. But seriously, just hit subscribe, because then it tells us that you really like the channel. And if you really love the channel, we always appreciate a honest review. And, it's just such a pleasure to do this show. I really want to just take a beat and let you know that this is one of my favorite things about the last decade of being an entrepreneur is the opportunity to meet people like Kevin, to meet our other guests, and to be able to share some of their insights and wisdoms with you. So thank you. I really do appreciate you listening, and I can't wait to see you again. And in the meantime, make sure you keep doing what matters. Hey, Amanda here, and I am looking for guests for this show. So I'm looking specifically for established entrepreneurs who've figured out a thing or two about how to make this business thing work in the context of a real life. So if you would love to sit down for an episode of the Amanda Kaufman Show and let me pick your brain in front of the people, then make sure you apply at clairevenue.com/the-podcast. Link is in the show notes. Let's get back to the show.